Hey, fam. So we have been super excited for this season because we have been building up a list of guests. Like, guys, we have so many people that we want to introduce you to. This is so exciting for us.
Mm-hmm.
And today's guest, she's very much on our wavelength. She does the same kind of stuff we do, just on a way bigger level. So, like, we'll grow up to be her one day.
Yes. I love that. We're just teenagers right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing.
But today's guest is Ceci Cleary. She's a producer and development executive at her company, Bluewaterlane Productions. And basically, she's an independent producer who has grown to develop her own company. And she just, she built her way up from the bottom. She started doing stunts and did location management and did all kinds of stuff. She's done like every position you can think of in the production world, and eventually realized producing was what she was good at, what she loved doing. And she's bringing her own spice to it. And it was so exciting to talk to her today because, like I said, we're on the same page with her. She's doing the kind of thing that we want to do. So it was really great to talk to a like-minded female producer.
Exactly. I think you guys will really enjoy her insight, her journey. I mean, it's not like anything that you haven't heard before, which is also awesome because that's how you learn, is just trying out all the different roles, see what you gravitate towards, but also just we get into more of her production challenges, which she's been able to just overcome. And that in itself is so encouraging. And yeah, can't wait to grow up.
We'll grow up to be Ceci one day.
One day. Enjoy this episode.
To get started, I guess, we had just mentioned how we're all East Coasters and everything, but let us know a little bit about your history, how you got started just in the industry in general, and what kind of led you on the path that you're on today.
Well, it's a kind of an interesting story. I was a professional big wave windsurfer in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Maui. And at the time, I did a lot of stunt work.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of movies being filmed on Maui at the time, big features. And I just kind of fit the bill for all the stunt work. And I became kind of fascinated with the business. I loved it. So when I wouldn't get the talent job or the stunt job, I would just go to the production and be like, I want to learn. I'll just be a PA. And they're like, but you're the talent. Why are you going getting people coffee? I'm like, because I want to learn.
Yeah.
So in my 20s, I would just take any job that was given to me. And then I got into locations because I knew the islands so well. Mm-hmm. So I did locations and locations management for quite a while. And then I realized I really want to produce. And then I had an opportunity in New York to produce. And it was a very small film at the time. And, as many movies never happened, certain things happened.
Right.
But I realized I wanted to produce at that time. So, and I would take jobs on car commercials, being the assistant to a producer. And I remember one woman, she did all these big car commercials. I think it was Plum Productions. And she said to me, you'd be a really good producer. And she was so supportive. She was awesome. I forget her name now, but her and her husband ran that company. Mm-hmm. So I kind of always knew, but still I would just take any job. I did body double work, stunt work,
wow,
locations, PA work, whatever it took just to learn and kind of find my spot. Mm-hmm. And I think it helped me become a better producer because I've been in so many different roles. I respect everybody's job and I understand how hard, what hard work it is.
Yeah. And I think that is super important for a producer to understand everyone's job, but like bonus points if you've done it, you know what I mean? Because then you really get it and you really get what goes into it. And if you're at the top telling these people what to do, if it's not in their wheelhouse, if it's not something they can do, if it's not, like all of those things, that's going to cause problems. So if you understand everybody's job, what their limitations are, what their abilities are, who is supposed to be doing what, all of that, like that's only going to make you a better producer and it's only going to make the whole set flow more efficiently.
Oh, definitely. there's some producers, I forget who it was. It might have been Spielberg. I think he did almost every job on a set.
Yeah.
Um, and it is interesting, producers who haven't had those experiences. I think it's hard to be a good boss if you just don't know people's jobs,
Right.
or respect their
Yeah.
jobs. Because, I mean, even I used to do extra work even back when I was an actor. And I feel like you got to respect the extras.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make a movie without them. Like,
Yeah.
everyone plays their role. The Teamsters, the
Exactly.
extras, the grip guys. I mean, it's, everyone plays their part. So I feel like I don't see it as a hierarchy.
Yeah.
Because some movie sets run where they separate the extras. A lot of producers won't go up to the Teamsters and introduce themselves. Because, I mean, they work the hardest.
Yeah.
They really do. And so I learned as well when I was doing locations for a Clint Eastwood movie on Maui, Hereafter, I believe it was called. And I just watched how he ran his sets.
Mm-hmm.
He let the
Mhm.
extras sit at the same tables. He treated everybody equally. The only thing the ADs would just come up to everybody and just say, listen, he's not being a jerk or anything, but just don't approach him because he's working.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
he only does one take. And so he has to really focus when he works. And so I was like, oh, I'd like to run a set that way someday. So
Yeah.
I try to learn from the directors and production companies I've worked for, where it's like, oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
So luckily now I've had the opportunity to lead from the top and treat everybody very nicely.
Yeah. And how awesome is that you've had the opportunity to work with people like Clint Eastwood? Like, that's a huge, a huge name that a lot of people don't ever get to even see, let alone work closely with. So, it sounds like you came up on successful sets that taught you these things, and you got to work with some greats, and it's an amazing experience that's, again, only going to make you a better producer.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I love that did you feel like you were just openly curious? That's what it sounds like to me. Just I feel like being curious and not being afraid to ask questions on set respectfully. We've touched on it on our show before, but I think that's part of the learning. And it, again, only makes you a better producer. Or maybe you go into directing, and as a director as well, it's just so important to be informed with everyone's roles. So I just love that you were open, you were curious, and did you just feel that's like your curiosity just kind of eventually you're like, yeah, I love producing? Like, what about producing to you really just struck a chord?
Well, I think it was when I did 40 Love. Fred Wolf was our director. He did a lot of all the Adam Sandler movies, and he had wanted to make a more like what is it called, Harry Met Salad,
Okay.
and do something with incredible dialogue. He and I were in New York together. We had not cast anybody. We had production offices open. We were tech scouting. We had locations, but we were like, where are we going to cast in this? And Fred and I would go to Christie's casting, and we cast the entire movie. The two of us together, we were collaborative.
Okay.
And luckily we
Mhm.
agreed on all the same people. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. And I just love that experience. And then we tech scout every day. And then we go into 6 hours of casting for like 6 weeks. This is all
Wow.
pre-production.
Wow.
And I was like, I love this because it's having the creative side of it and having a director include me on the creative.
Mhm.
It just made me love it. With To Leslie, most of it was already cast. Michael Morris, he's a brilliant director.
Mhm.
For that movie, I wasn't part of that process. Michael pretty much in Arlie Day casted the entire movie, and they killed it. So
Mhm.
every movie is a little different. I
Yeah.
enjoy all aspects, and it's all very interesting. But I love it. I don't know what else I'd be doing.
Yeah. And that goes to show that there is no right way to do it either. Like whether you leave it all to a casting director, whether you have the director doing it all, whether you have the director and the producer combined casting, like just depends on you and your team and, what you need to get done. And there's no right way.
Every movie's different, and I've been very lucky in the sense I was introduced to Jason Schumann and Eduardo Cisneros, and I've been producing with them now for 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been great, and they're very busy now. They have Winning Game.
Okay.
That's Jason, the Lakers series.
Yeah.
He developed that for 9 years until it got picked up.
Wow.
Yeah, and now they're on Acapulco 2 down in Mexico. So they're very
That's
experienced
incredible.
and they're very smart. So when we picked up To Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
this is probably the most challenging thing that ever happened in my career.
Oh.
We had another movie in production, pre-production. And because of COVID, the 2 lead actors, no fault to them, they were just a little scared.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blame them. And
Right.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. I was on a 1-day reshoot for 40 Love during COVID when this all happened. And they were making me quarantine, and I get the call. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. This can't be happening. So Jason Schumann and Eduardo Cisneros, who are brilliant writers and were represented by UTA, gave us 11 scripts we had to read over a 24-hour period, or
Wow.
maybe 48.
Still, that's crazy.
And that's how we found To Leslie. So
Okay.
Eduardo, Jason, and I read 11 scripts, and then we all talked that Monday. And I said, guys, which one is it? I think it's To Leslie. What do you guys think? And they said, yep, it's To Leslie. And then I moved the entire production team. I said, guys, you still have a job. It's just a different movie now.
It's a great day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
More
great
work.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then
yeah,
we
because I
worked-
wanted to get into
yeah.
To Leslie more and how you came across that
Yeah.
script and had your team. So it sounds like you had your team already there. You've been working with them, and then I might have missed it, but where is it that common that every time you approach a new project, you sift through a bunch of scripts and then kind of decide like what feels right for your production company's mission and the budget and resources you have? I mean, we're small pickings here at Femme right now. We're just producing our own work, but I'm would love to know a little bit more about that process.
Well, there's a lot of different things to take into consideration. For To Leslie, I just thought it was such a moving script.
Mhm.
And Michael Morris, everything he touches is gold. I mean, he's such a brilliant director. He did Bloodline, House of Cards, Billions.
Yeah.
And I just thought,
legendary.
okay, legendary. Yeah. And this was his first feature film. I figured, you know what,
Oh my gosh,
this would be wonderful if we could pull this off. And there's also a lot of talent already attached that Michael attached and our casting director, Arlie Day, attached. So that was very appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's nice to have a package. And then
I mean, right. Allison Janney, I'm sorry, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, she's great.
She's literally one of my favorite actors. So
she's great. And she's so easy peasy.
Good.
And fun to be around and so talented. So I'm trying to think who else was already attached. Stephen Root, Mark Maron. There's a lot. Oh, Andrea Riseborough.
Yeah.
Michael and Arlie brought those people in. And then there was another producing team we merged with who are great, Claude DeFera and his team. And he's done like 20 movies or something. So we had a really strong product.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little challenging though during COVID. We were one of the only productions in LA filming during COVID. Everything shut down. The streets boarded up. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I hope the mayor still thinks we're essential. Or the governor, whoever makes those decisions. So so we were able to still film, and I had a very good COVID team that managed everything, and not one person on my set got COVID.
That's impressive.
And this was like at the height. Oh, they were very strict with us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
We had a lot of rules. Yeah,
we've interviewed quite a few productions that. And on smaller scales in the independent world that made it through COVID, and wow, the challenges, the protocols, yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely a load, but congrats, like to have a COVID-free set is always the goal,
Mhm.
right? And that's just a
Mhm.
beautiful thing that you're able to still make the work happen in really difficult times. Would you mind sharing with the audience what To Leslie is all about?
Oh, the like the log line of the story.
Yeah, the
Well,
log line.
oh, okay. So it's based on a true story of a woman who won the lottery in West Texas in I think 1992, and
Mm-hmm.
it goes south very quickly. And
She
it's
gets spendy.
yes, and she kind of leaves a whole disaster behind her and just leaves and leaves her son, and
Yeah.
it's really a redemption story
Okay.
of how you come back and like second chances.
Ah, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So
And I think it touches on addiction too, which I thought was interesting.
yeah, it does. I think that's not the story really. It's just sort of like because anyone can be down and out, whether it's addiction or God knows what
Right.
happens in people's lives and the choices they make.
Yeah.
But I think the main point is just like Mark Maron, uh, he takes a chance on her,
Mhm.
a perfect stranger. It's
Mm,
just like, oh, there are good people out there, and there are people that can get you through anything, whether it's
Yeah.
addiction, whether it's whatever it may be in your life.
Yeah.
So I think
yeah,
that's the beauty of the story.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and then Owen Teague, oh gosh, he's so good in this movie. He plays her son.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nice. I
yeah.
mean, any
So
like any good emotional redemption story, like that's the formula for a good movie. Like if as long
right.
as you have the good like pieces of the story underneath of it to build it up and to make it unique and the people to pull it off, like you've got an automatic winner. So
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad it's so well received because
Yeah.
it's a tricky subject. But everyone that's read the script, I mean, loves it. I mean, it really touches people. So yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I know it was in South by Southwest. What
Hmm.
other let me see,
Let
I
me put
have
this off for a sec.
notes of this as well. Oh, it premiered at South by Southwest. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like
yeah,
it's doing
that's
really well. Like even that alone is a huge accomplishment.
Oh, yes, we did great there, and all the actors came. We
Love that.
did, the red
oh,
carpet.
Yeah.
Our director got a standing ovation,
Oh, amazing.
and then I did an
oh,
after party with a step and repeat.
Uh-huh.
And because we never got to have a wrap party, it kind of turned into the wrap party.
That's fun.
So everyone stayed
that's
till 5
amazing.
a.m. Yeah, it was great. Everyone was having
Yes.
such a good time. And, that was the first event in 2 years that was live. And we all got to see each other again.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah, because when we wrapped on December 24th, everyone just scattered and went home. And
Right.
the COVID uh, protocol was we couldn't do a wrap party. So
mm,
we finally got our wrap party
That's
in
almost
Austin.
even better because it's like, you guys have been away from each other and I'm sure y'all missed each other and it's like a reunion at that point.
Oh, it was a great reunion because it was so stressful. Every
Yeah.
morning I'd wake up in cold sweats. Are we going to get shut down? Is one of my actors going to get COVID? Am I going to get COVID and then not be able to go to set? So
Yeah.
it's a minor miracle that we were able to pull that off without any hitches.
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear a little more about that too, because like Carolina said, we've interviewed a few people that have filmed during COVID, but a lot of them were like in their own apartment, and it was like one person in the apartment and one crew member at a time or whatever. But it sounds like you guys were like, out on location, like more of a or less of a skeleton crew, I should say, I guess, on a more professional level. So I'm curious to hear a little more about what it was actually like day to day on set during COVID.
Day to day was a little stressful because we're all used to being so close and eating together. We had to eat at separate tables for all our meals. So
Mhm.
like
mm,
basically you'd be sitting at a separate table, you'd be waving to your friends over there.
Yeah.
And then on set our director's chairs where we look at the monitor, we had to like be 6 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always talking and being like, oh, okay, what about that shot here?
Right.
But you couldn't go walk, like it was just hard to communicate because we had to have a lot of separation. And then we'd get stopped. They're like, okay, guys, remember the helicopter rule. You're not 6 feet apart. We're gonna come find you.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that. And also it was challenging as a producer because normally when there's an interior shot, my monitor and my chairs are in the room where it's actually being shot.
Right.
But because the exteriors was easier because you could be right there.
Mm-hmm.
But interiors, I wasn't allowed inside, nor were any of the producers because we were zone B, which means we only get tested, I think, 3 days a week. Zone A are the actors and the director and the camera crew. They got tested, I think, 5 days a week. So there was just a lot of, it was just, I'd never experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
But you just adjust, you get used to it. And
you made it through.
we made it through.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ceci, I'm looking at Tessa's notes here, and something I've been dying to also sink my teeth into. Here at Femme Regard, we're so passionate about empowering women in front of and behind the camera, and you have done a lot to also empower women in this industry. And I want to get into a little conversation around that, and
your company, Bluewaterlane, and
like what that's been like, and what advice can you give to women like us who are right now, we're trying to get funding for our first feature film, and as we send out our decks and our pitch videos and all of that, if there's any advice or resources that have helped you in the past. I know I'm asking like a million questions in this one sentence, but anything that kind of sparks your mind to get started, I would love to be all ears about that.
Hey, fam, have you heard us raving about Jambox yet? Because let me tell you, it's such an amazing tool for filmmakers, podcasters, advertisers, and anyone who needs music for their projects.
Jambox.io is so versatile. They've got songs and sound effects, organized by artist, genre, mood, and tags.
And they're actually affordable. For as little as $9.99 a month for independent creators, $6 a month for students, or $19.99 a song, you can choose whether a subscription-based membership or a la carte pricing works better for you. And they're flexible. For individual creators to commercial to advertising to theatrical release, they've got you covered.
Plus, they're constantly growing and evolving, with new songs and playlists all the time and customer service on point. They really do have everything you need.
We've been working with them for a while now and couldn't be happier. That's why we have a special coupon code for our listeners.
For 10% off your purchase, make sure you enter code FEMME10 at checkout. That's Femme, FEMME 10 at jambox.io, where they connect creators with ridiculously good music and sound effects.
Well, I think the main thing is having a really solid script and having attachments, like some director that you believe in, some actors that love the script. Because without that, it's just 110 pages
harder.
of
Yeah.
So I
like
think
what we're doing probably, but yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, it can work many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is a particular formula. What I have learned though is having a really good script, a great director, and some talent attached makes it so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's challenging in itself, but that's all networking, really. Yeah, this whole COVID thing has made me realize when they were tracking me when I was in New York,
Mm-hmm.
when I was on that 14-day quarantine for the 1-day reshoot for 40 Love.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, okay, this is getting Big Brother here. This is getting weird.
It's everything is, I mean, we always say our messages, the message of our film is twofold. It centers around toxic friendships and relationships, but then the tech is this dangerous vessel that we need to question what privacy and protections are in place for the evolution of tech that is fastly growing. There's amazing benefits like us being able to Zoom right now, right? But this constant like lack of transparency is great, but also I think can be harmful. And I think I do worry about our human consciousness and like what that's leading to if we're all just going to live digitally and not be like human anymore. And that I just feel like it's fun to, that's what I love about film so much, is like we can explore those worlds and combine like I'm the writer as well, like my true experiences with relationships that I'm very passionate about, like telling through my perspective. So
and it's
I think
important
that's
it's important to us to tell this story now too, because it is so timely right now. Like when Carolina was in the midst of still writing the script, Elon Musk was like, hey, I've got this this technology, I can put like chips in your brains, like this is something that's like coming out right now, you know. So it's crazy that it really is lining up. And so it's important to us to get this story out now. This is why it's something, it's not something that we're just like, okay, here's the finished script and we're going to sit on it until we can find the funding. Like we're like, no, we have to find the funding and get this out now, because it actually is timely. It actually is the perfect time for a story like this.
Oh, it sounds like it. I mean, that's really fascinating. And I like the angle too of the toxic friendships. I've had to, in the past 2 years, I've had to get rid of some people, friends, and different work partners or whatever it may be. And once you identify it, it's like, oh, okay, this is not healthy. And you just find a way to do it politely, and then you just cut them out.
Yeah.
And now I only have people in my life that are wonderful.
Yeah.
And really supportive. One of my best friends is a production manager and she's done all sorts of events. So she did all the work, the coordination for South by Southwest, Diane
amazing.
Dickinson. And she's one of my best friends, and she's so supportive. Like if I'm having a bad day or I'm like, oh my God, I'm so overloaded, I don't even know how I'm going to keep going. You know, she's just like, I'm so proud of you. You know, and she's like my cheerleader.
Aww.
Yeah.
So that's what you need.
Yeah.
That's like, as women, especially, like we need to be everyone's cheerleader all the time. Hype us up.
Yeah. And you know, interestingly enough, so many of the men have been so supportive too, like Michael Morris, Fred Wolf, Jason Schumann, Eduardo Cisneros, Alex at UTA. You know, everyone's just been so great. So women and men.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's less a gender issue and more of like, well, I mean, just as people, as human beings, you know, we're all emotional, we're all sensitive, but especially in this industry, like we're all creatives and we're all, while we've learned to build a thick skin because you have to get through this industry, it's also like all of these projects are special to us in some way, you know, whether it's like actually like our baby that we wrote and created, or even if it's just something that we took on, you know, as a like less creative producer or something, like it's still, there's a connection no matter what, you know. So it's an emotional business, you know, and it's just, you have to, you can only get through with the support of people, of those cheerleaders of your tribe. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what I've learned, to create a tribe. And anyone that was in the tribe that is sabotaging you, you just sort of say, okay, I'm going to let you go. Because you really need the support, because it's such a tough business. And
I agree.
It's really tough. So it's very important who you keep around you, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that goes from business relationships to friendships, because it's, again, so tough what we do. We put emotion, we have to also put our business mind on. And if someone's just depleting your energy constantly, it's just, I think the reason why I'm also passionate about touching on friendships is, you know, in society, we're taught more or less how to set boundaries with our romantic lover type relationships. But with friendships, it's a not something that's really talked about enough. And those are the ones that are even closer to us at times, right? So I think that's super important. And did you find when you let go of some of those relationships that it just made you even more open to other relationships and just growth in that way? I'm just curious to know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I once I
Yeah.
got rid of the toxic people in my life, uh, yeah, I mean, then all the right people came in, and then I'm a little
Right.
more discerning now of who I let in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the doors opened up once I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And those are more friendships and certain
Yeah.
other working relationships. As far as relationships, I haven't really dated anyone in 2 years, so I don't know who'd want to date me. I'm so busy, I wouldn't have time.
Same. I understand that completely.
Tessa says that all the time.
Oh yeah, so I went on one of those dating apps.
Mhm.
I think it's called Raya or something. And I was just like, I don't even look at it. I don't have time. I'm like,
Yeah.
when would I have time to go meet someone for coffee? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, I hear it. I hear it, my girl bosses. I love it. But I think it's important for our listeners to like know that, because sometimes we hold on because we think that relationship still is going to tie us to all these different things and it's so important, but it actually is prohibiting you from having more abundant, fulfilling relationships. So I love that that was the outcome, because that's what I believe, even though sometimes it's very hard. and it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing. So I know I'm like, guys, we're getting into a little therapy session today on Femme Regard. But I think it's not talked about. And that's what's like our films talked about. And in your professional like relationships, I think sometimes it's not talked about enough, and how to navigate that. So, and I love that you touched on it lightly, but from what I hear, it didn't have to be some big dramatic blow up. It can be done really professionally, courteously, and without like, some big explosion happening about it to like end a relationship and move on, break up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a way to do it. And then I have thick skin now. And if anyone tries to guilt trip me or they come and apologize, and I'm like, oh, it was just a miscommunication. I'm like, no, that was not a miscommunication. And I just let it go.
Yeah.
And I just, I let them go. I get rid of them on Instagram, Facebook, because I don't want them to see what I'm up to. And I just cut all ties. And it's no big deal. It's no big drama. It's just, okay, you got to go.
Yeah. And I think it's important too to know when and how, like, sometimes you need to just cut people out completely, like you just said, and that is perfectly okay to do, and it's healthy for you. And then there's other times where it's like, you don't need to necessarily cut the people out, but you need to be able to set the boundaries. For instance, like, I run into a lot of people, obviously living in LA, being an actor and a filmmaker, like a lot of my friends are actors and filmmakers and, creatives. And a lot of them will be like, oh, well, I have this idea, like, would you want to work on this project with me? Or I'd love to write this with you, or, whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I support what you're doing and good for you, but I cannot work on a project with you. I have way too much going on my own plate. I love that you asked me that, but like, I have to set this boundary. And sometimes it feels shitty because it's like, they're coming to you being like, well, I think you're talented and I'd love to work with you on this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sorry, I got my own thing going on. And sometimes it feels shitty to say, but you have to set those boundaries. And that's a situation where you can still have that friendship with that person. You can still have that working relationship with that person. And if they get upset about it, well, then maybe you do need to move on, But it's just, there's so many different layers and levels to things like that, so it is being discerning and being able to set boundaries and being able to say no, which I know I have a difficult time with, but yeah.
I've had a couple of situations where I've had to say no, and, people get pissed off. I'm like, I just can't do this project. I'm sorry, and I'm very honest about it. And it's the relationships I keep are the ones that are like, oh, no big deal. You passed, no problem. And you stay friends. And who knows, down the road, maybe there's a project that will work. But I think it's the people that take it too personally when someone says no, for whatever reason it may be. And
Right.
the people I keep in my life, the ones like, oh, no problem, I'll come, with another project. And, I'm the same way with like the directors I know. If
Mhm.
I send them scripts and they pass, they always read, which is great.
Yeah.
But if they pass, they have a reason because like they want to, do a certain genre, or it's not that they don't like the script or don't believe in it. And I'm like, oh, no problem, that's cool. And I keep my friendships. Like I'm not going to blow a friendship over somebody saying no.
Right.
So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
No, I love that you said that. That is so perfect because it happens all the time. Like it's not a new thing that people just like pass on projects or whatever because there's just so many variables that is going on when you decide to go in, and clearly it's like it's a big commitment. It's not like, something to be taken so personally.
Mhm.
So I think
I
that's
think that's a good point. Yeah, you just can't
Mhm.
take anything personally in this business
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yup, when it's all personal, you can't take it personally.
exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh well,
It's
okay,
Yeah.
that happens. But yeah, I think
yeah.
that's like the biggest lesson is, uh, yeah, setting boundaries and not taking anything personally. Because I mean, if you do, then that's it. You will not succeed.
Yeah.
I think, and all the relationships are so important too, because everybody comes full
Yeah.
circle,
Mhm.
right? You're going to see
Mhm.
that person again. You might be in another project with them, and if you just keep it all positive, I think
Yeah.
that's the way to do it. And if other people can't get that, then I just won't work with them again.
Yeah.
But I think people like to work with me because I just I'm like, oh, okay, no pressure,
Yeah. I think that's the
right?
best way to be. Yeah.
That's huge. The no
Yeah,
pressure,
Mhm.
for
yeah.
sure.
Because if it's
I
meant
love.
to be, it'll work.
Mhm.
Yes.
And trying
You don't
to
want to force it. That's
no, if
not
you
going to be good for anybody.
no, and then people run the other way. If you try to force it, all of a sudden, no one's taking your phone call.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Well, I would love to switch gears and circle back just once before we wrap up this
Okay.
episode. To hear a
I
little
have a
bit.
question too.
Okay. To hear a little bit more about your company, Bluewaterlane, and why you decided to actually form a company, really. Because we have a lot of like statistics that you brought to the table about female producers in this industry. And, again, this is something we mentioned earlier that we're passionate about. This is kind of why we started our company, to give women more opportunity. And I was just wondering if that was kind of the main motivation behind that for you as well, or just I guess in general, why you started a company as opposed to just, being an independent producer.
Well, it was our closest family friend that started the company years ago,
Okay.
and then he had the Love 40 script, or no, now it's 40 Love, but he gave me the opportunity. He had the script for 12 years, and I said, I can put Blue Water on the map. I will call everyone I know, but you've got to promise me you're going to back this, because if I start calling people, and get a good director and get some pretty well-known producers in Hollywood, there's no turning back.
Right.
And he did it.
Right.
He did it. He never backed out. And
Right.
he was like a second dad to me.
Mhm.
Very, very
Oh.
close family friend. And it took us a while. So that's kind of how that started. Then we had such a good experience on 40 Love with Fred Wolf and all the actors. He brought all the SNL people in.
Nice.
Like Colin Quinn, Chris Kattan.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, Steve Sherpa. Oh, he brought such a great cast. We had such a wonderful experience. We're like, let's go do this again.
Yeah.
And we picked up Flamingo Thief, and that's the one that we had to postpone due to COVID.
Mhm.
And we're like, we're going to keep going. And so his name is John Gilbert.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he passed away back in September. So he missed his own premiere, but he's there in spirit.
Yeah.
And he was an amazing actor. He acted in 40 Love, and he acted in To Leslie with Allison Janney and Riseborough.
Oh, wow.
He was in a great scene with them.
Okay.
So he just had a dream. He always wanted to call it Bluewaterlane. And then he wanted the logo to be the surfer dropping in on a wave. Because we were, at the time, we were running the production out of the beach house, where you look at the waves every day and the surfers. And so he believed in me. He gave me, I said, John, I can do this. I can put Blue Water on the map, and I can get the script made. We can do this. And he trusted me, and I'll always be thankful for that. So it's very, it's a family business, really. And yeah, he's our closest family friend. So that's how that all started.
I love that.
That's thank really, goodness really someone cool. Believed in me.
Someone believed in you, and you believed in him. And that's, like, that combination is what got it all started.
It did. And then I called my friend, Ben Odell. He's a close friend from the East Coast. And I said, okay, I've got the script. I've got the financing secured. And he's like, oh, you're going to need a lot more than that. I was like, oh my goodness, how tough is this business? Yeah. He's like, I'm connecting you with Jason and Eduardo because you need that inner circle. He said, otherwise you will fail.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of people come out and support, but it was very interesting to know, just because you have a script and the money, no one trusts anybody in this town. I'm like, no, I can do this.
Yeah. But I mean, it makes sense. So many people want to make a movie, set out to make a movie, and aren't able to follow through with it. So I do get why there is, hesitation in this town so much. But yeah, it's like, if you can get somebody in your inner circle that already has the trust of the quote unquote important people that you need to reach, and to build that for yourself, like, it really does take you, that's what you need, takes you to the next level.
Right. And that's what Ben Odell taught me. He's like, there's no way you're going to do this the way you're doing it. So it was a real headache. I had to switch teams to get that movie made. He's like, you're not going to make it without bringing in these people. And the first phone call I had, Ben's like, I think Jason Schumann would be perfect. And I got along with him right away. I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So it all worked out.
That's great.
That's amazing. And I think just the key is to continue get that, once you get the ball rolling, to keep continuing moving forward and getting connected. And I mean, I have to blindly believe that you will just keep attracting the right people in your circle to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like that's how it just like all continue to work, even when you were told like, okay, but still you're like, okay, but you didn't hesitate. You just kept going with it. You're like, all right, like, who do I have to call? Who do I have to meet? We'll get it situated.
Oh, there were so many challenges, and I'm just used to it now.
Yeah.
I don't let anything stop me. Like, okay, that just happened. Pivot.
Yeah. Yes.
Pivoting. You just take it day at a time.
Our favorite word on this podcast, because it's so true. It happens all the time. And, I think I love that you just get better at it, right? It's still the same, thing that you have to do again and again, but you just get better at it, I think, over time. From what I hear. We're still in the trenches figuring it all out, but I love that mindset. It's just like, I'm all about creative solutions. Like, okay, we got a problem. Well, let's just think of something else to like, not get bogged down by it, because then you'll just get bogged down by every little thing that happens, right?
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many things that happen in a day, whether it's pre-production, whether it's on set, post-production. Right. I'm very heavily involved in post, and with whatever distributor picks up the film, and things can go wrong now and again. It's like, oh, we'll just figure it out. I don't freak out. But the first couple years of producing, oh my goodness, I'd freak out over everything. And then my mentors were great. They'd be like, it's no big deal. I'm like, what do you mean it's no big deal? Like, we're 3 days out before one of our major leads Tommy Flanagan in 40 Love plays the Russian dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we don't have a Russian dad. What are we going to do? We hadn't cast that part yet. I'm like, but that role starts shooting on Monday. And Jason's like, don't worry about it. I'm just going to call, you know, his agent. He's in Scotland, but we'll just fly him over. I'm like, okay. And yeah, I was like, okay. And then I remember one day we're coming back from set. We were, gosh, where were we? We were in upstate New York somewhere. And I'm like, and he's like, here are our 3 choices. And I said, okay, I think Tommy Flanagan's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, I just talked to his agent. He's going to fly here tomorrow. I'm like, okay, that worked out. And then we had all these different creative things. But well, maybe we can make it a Russian mom instead of a Russian dad. I mean, we went through this whole, you know, thought process. And then Fred Wolf, you know, because the director always has the final say on casting. I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I said, give me 24 hours because we have to decide tomorrow. And, you know, to arrange it. And Fred Wolf said, it's Tommy Flanagan. And he did a great job in the movie. I mean, he was a really good Russian dad, tennis player. I mean, yeah. So things like that come up. And, you know, luckily, because I work with people who have been in the business for 20 years, if I'm like, tell me if there's a problem.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this isn't a problem. I said, okay, trust you guys.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's really helpful to hear because, you know, I've been on a nightmare sad situation where I'm like, okay, this is literally feels like life and death, like this isn't happening. And then somehow it just always ends up working out, even the very last second. Not my favorite style of producing, but it does. Like it literally, it will. Like if you just keep rolling with it, stay positive, breathe a lot, it all pans out. But so it's nice to hear that even on like bigger scales. Oh, it happens, and that's scary.
We had a couple of things happen on To Leslie where we had to shift different people in different roles, and our writer Ryan Bianco is amazing, and Michael Morris, and there's a role we had to change last minute, and they stayed up all night writing a new role for a certain part.
Yeah.
And nobody freaked out. We're all like, okay, what are we going to do? And I think that's like the big lesson, which I didn't know my first year of producing. I freaked out over everything. But if you have the right team and the right people,
right,
you just problem solve.
Yeah.
Right. It's so important. And that's all I wanted to my last little question here was being a development executive, for your company. It's, you're really handling that whole process of the pre-production through to post-production and getting all the pieces together. It sounds like, for those who don't understand maybe more of what that role entails. Is there something that we didn't touch on that that you love about it and that is really integral to what you do?
Well, yes, I find it interesting because these are independent films. I have my fingers in everything. Yeah. And so the business part of it, I think the difference, if you work for a studio, you're very siloed. So you only know one part of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But if you have to be involved in everything, you kind of learn a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm very good at saying, I know what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get the right people to explain to me and then have the right team to execute. So I think that's really important. But not everybody is involved as a producer in every aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's been really helpful to me. And there's certain areas of it I'm like, it's not my area, but I'm still involved.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's just I
you just have
it.
Yeah, and you have someone doing that part who's the shining star of that role, of
right.
that that position, which I think there's a lot of power in that. So that's being, a good producer. It's okay, I'm hiring the best now who can take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And still getting, your insight and being a part of it and managing it. So I think that's really cool. I love that as a producer to still be involved and still see it through. You, like you said, you learn so much.
Yeah, I think it's good because, I don't think people understand how, I mean, between music rights and selling a movie and then getting it over the distributor, how much is involved in that? I mean,
yeah,
it just keeps going and going.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand like how much work it is if you're an independent production company. I mean, there are no days off,
Right.
ever. So
Femme Regard podcast brought to you. Real talk on the production life, no days off. But that's okay when you're doing something you love and like, still we're always working balance out and figuring it out. And I think, again, this is where your heart is, you will learn to manage all of that. And it takes time. Like you said, you used to freak out at everything. Now you're like, I just roll with it.
But now I'm working on developing what's next. So I have to be very busy this month. Or next month, June. Right. Because I have to manage the ones that we've already done, but how long it takes to develop something.
Right.
So now I'm focusing on that.
Yeah.
Like what's next? So I met with a close friend of mine. She's a novelist. It's called Chasing Cleopatra. And we've been developing this for like 2 years.
Wow.
And Tina Sloan, she used to be on The Guiding Light. She's been in Woody Allen movies. I mean, she's a force of nature. So I met with her yesterday about what our plan is to develop that. So, and then I'm going to meet her in LA in June, I think.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like,
that's amazing.
But as a producer, you've got to have 5 or 6 scripts at one time. You just never know which one's going to get picked up or. So I'm very busy.
Yeah, we understand that completely. It's a scary thing to people who haven't jumped in yet, but it's also like Carolina said, if it's what you love, then you're going to find a way to do it and you're going to love it. It's going to be stressful, but you're going to be happy that you're doing it.
Not do it.
Yeah.
Like you can't not do it. I find, because Tessa, like, we had a fundraising call yesterday and we're like, okay, there goes our summer. Really fun, fun stuff. And we're still traveling and stuff, we still have like somewhat of a normal life. Right. And so it's just like, wow, okay, yep, this is what I signed up for. Cool. Well, this is my madness. This is what I love. Like I can't live without the chaos, right? Like that's just, I think you just need to embrace that, especially when it's going to be like a trying time at times, but also I think just trying to keep a good, I guess, a sense of yourself in it. That's fine. You'll be fine. You'll make it out alive. Right. Ceci?
You just keep on going.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Keep on going. Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today giving us the time. You're incredible. The work you're doing. Is there a place where we would be able to soon watch too, Leslie?
Well, right now it's at festivals.
Okay.
It won't be in theaters until September or October. I believe October is our release date.
Nice.
And then it'll by the fall it'll be out everywhere. Right now, it's going to the Lighthouse Festival in New Jersey. It just went to Chicago. It was at South by, and then we're also doing the Nantucket Film Festival, and we're currently at Cannes.
That's awesome.
For international sales. Yeah, I didn't go over that one. This is international sales for buyers. So. I'm trying to think. There's one other one in California. I think Montecito. I think we're going. Ooh. Yeah, so you could always go see it in Montecito.
Yeah, and then also, Ceci, if there's any like social media, your website, anything like that you would like to share with our listeners.
Oh, my handle is Ceci Cleary 1. That's CECI Cleary CLEARY 1, and then my Facebook. I have a website, cecicleary.com,
Mhm.
which I haven't updated recently. And then we also have a handle for Bluewaterlane Productions. I'm trying to think if there's
Perfect.
any other. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll
And
make sure
there's,
we plug all of that in the show notes. Absolutely.
and there's also 40 Love, the movie. We have a handle for that.
Okay, great.
And yeah, and then To Leslie, the distributor, is going to take care of that handle probably starting next month.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so
Perfect.
much, Cece, for coming on today. This was super inspiring and super like we love to hear when our guests are on the same page as us. You know what I mean? That we all
Right.
have the same kind of interest and we all have the same belief system with this industry, you know.
Well, it's lovely to meet you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. I like it
Yeah.
when we all think alike.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.